things? Or was it fate? Or was it fate? Who knows? Only the man who worked and the mastermind behind all this. On a miserable day, midwinter, it was biting cold and surely a time to be indoors against the protection from the very chill that gnawed through each one's very soul. Each one possessed a stick of wood, or so the story goes. The stick of wood stands for many things, you see. It is, indeed, primarily protection against the cold. It is our own capability to find solutions to our own problems. The spirit that exists within all of us. The most important being. Blessings and choices. They had the blessing of each owning a stick and the choice of using it or not.
Fire in need of logs, but the first one held hers back, for of the faces round the fire she noticed one was black. In the second stanza of this poem, we see that the fire fed upon the logs, and the pieces of burning logs turned into ashes of dying fire, and the fire eventually burned out. But nobody tried to revive this fire. The first person of this group, that is a white complexioned lady, denied to give a piece of log to revive this fire because she noticed there was a black person in this group. The presence of this black person made her feel uneasy. Even though the fire could have benefited the other 5 white people in this group, including herself, the thought that her black counterpart could have used that fire to survive himself made her feel uncomfortable. Here we see that the woman was overpowered by racism. She had thoughts of race prejudice in her mind, which kept her away from giving her log of wood to revive the warmth of the fire.
Man looked across the way, saw one not of his church, and he couldn't bring himself to give the fire his stick of birch. This is stanza number 3, which explains the mentality of the second man sitting around the fire. He looked over all the men around and saw one not belonging to his church, while all the others did belong. Although both were white, he paid his life not more attention than his religious faith. Merely for the prejudice against the member of another sect, he refrained from sharing his stick, so that only one man of the 6 wouldn't get that.
The third one sat in tattered clothes. He gave his coat a hitch. Why should his log be put to use? To warm the idle rich? The third man was a very poor man, and he was wearing torn and tattered clothes. He was full of bitterness and envy for rich. He pulled his coat to warm himself and thought that why should he put his log into the fire to warm the lazy rich people? So he too held back his firewood, and envy towards the others makes him suffer. The rich man just sat back and thought of all the wealth he hadn't stored and how to keep everything he had earned from the lazy, shiftless poor. The rich man pondered of all the wealth he had already accumulated over a period of time. He ruminated on how to keep everything he felt he had earned with his own blood and sweat from the poor whom he considered lazy and lacking of ambition.
Man's face bespoke revenge, fire passed from his side, for all he saw in his stick of wood was a chance to spike the wind. We remember in the second stanza we saw that there was a white-complexioned woman who denied to give her log of wood to revive the warmth of the fire that could have benefited a black person who was present in the same room. But in this stanza we see that the black person was equally revengeful. He did not want to give his log of wood to revive the fire because he thought the other 5 could have benefited from it. The other 5, as we all know, were white people. Here, he also had thoughts of race prejudice in his mind. The whites had been cruel to the blacks for several years, as we know that had been a part of American history. Here, the black person thought that he could take a revenge over the other 5 white who had been cruel to him for so many years by not giving his log of wood to revive the fire. As a result, all would have died, but he did not think that log of wood could have saved his own life as well. He was so overpowered, he was so mad for revenge that he did not see that log of wood could have saved his life as well.
The last man of this forlorn group did not accept for gain, giving only to those who gain was how he played his game. The stanza 7 explains the last man's mindset about all others. He was a white man who did good only to those from whom he could gain something. He followed the give and take business policy, and seeing that no one threw their stick into fire and did him good, he refused to do good to others. He, not being benefited from others, forgot to benefit from himself and never thought of the good he had to do to himself.
Last stanza. Their logs held tight in Death's still hand was a proof of human sin. They didn't die from the cold outside. They died from the cold within. At last, the fire extinguished and the entire group perished. They perished not because of the cold outside, but because of the inherent prejudices. They were too selfish to help others. Each one possessed a stick, but still they refused to help others for one reason or the other, which shows that no one had renounced sinning, being unkind to each other. The poem appeals to our heart forcefully and asks us to give up all the prejudices. We should stop being unkind, ungenerous, greedy, revengeful, and spiteful. If we do not give up our prejudices, then we are sure to harm ourselves as well as others. Prejudices are self-destructive. Thank you.